Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on folks. It's your man, always George Page, aka the Emperor of Female. By me talking to you live on YouTube. Folks, can you believe it? May is on its way out. We have just a few more days left of May. It's the gateway into summer. It's still kind of bit spring, but it's depending where you're at. Sometimes the weather takes a little while before it gets to a point. I know some people up north, by the time they start feeling like it's spring, it's summer for us down here in the South. And folks, we have a show coming up this weekend. It is the Ultima Classic. It's going to be in Shreveport, Louisiana. You want to check it out? I just posted a video for the show. It's going to be a live stream this year. I'm surprised. I mean, at that point, we never had it before, but that's great. I'm not going to watch because, as you know, my stance is if you don't have women's bodybuilding show, I don't support you. I'm a fan of that division. It's the division that really got me into this content, and especially into you ladies. And anyway, folks, also there's another show in Spain. And I will do a video on that one too. A couple of ladies I follow are competing this show. So, folks, we have here a returning guest, and she is a lovely lady from the other side of the world. She's from the UK, and as you know, one of my monikers, I am an international player from the Himalayas. I love the opportunity when I get to talk to someone across here, especially this young lady who I've been following for quite some time now. I got an interview a few years ago, and she was still in the trenches, but now she has the identity of now becoming an IFBB pro. So let's welcome the new Women's Physique I Pro, the lovely Miss Clara Crowther.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, ma'am. So congratulations, because you've been doing this for quite some time. I remember I reached out to you. You were competing in other division. One time you competed in PCA, and then you made the switch over to NPC. And you were, there were some hits and misses.
Yeah, it's been a journey. So, because I was sort of floating between figure and physique. So for a while, it was like, depending on the other athletes that were on stage, sometimes I was looking a little bit too big in figure, but then not quite big enough for physique. So there was just that sort of transition time of like really sort of working out where I sat completely. So I did a few years like straddling the two really, and got very close. Well, 7 times I was second in the overall for a pro card, which was frustrating. But, at the same time, you think, well, right, I've got to just, I've got to keep working on this, come back and be undeniable, So this year I started working with a different coach. So I started actually working with a female coach this year, which was the first time that I've done that. I've always worked with male coaches in the past, but this year I worked with a female coach and found that to be very beneficial for me. And yeah, brought another level of condition this time, but I've not brought before because it's always been that little bit more condition for me. I've always needed to just bring a little bit more. So that's what we did. And finally, we got it.
Yeah, well, congratulations. I know it's tough. There was a show you were in, was it a few weeks ago, where it was very close. And one of the competitors who won that show is now making her pro debut at the Spain Pro Masters. Congratulations to her. She competed for nearly 30 years in sport. I know. I saw the video. It was tough, but you know what? You were a good sport about it. I know. I don't know if in the back you were going like, but sometimes you gotta be because it never hurts. They're just like, you know what? It was so close.
Yeah, and she's a phenomenal athlete. Like you say, she's been competing a very long time. A very impressive physique. No real weaknesses there. She had the size, she had the condition. So, and she was the better girl on the day, and that's fine. And that's the way it goes. You have to be, you have to be a good sports person about it. At the end of the day, if you get beaten by somebody and they are a stronger athlete, they're a stronger athlete, and and that's the way it goes. And I have absolute respect for my fellow competitors, and it was a good show. It was a great show, and luckily in that show there were the numbers to give the card out on the day, because there was 6 of us in total at that show. That was FIBO in Germany, so it was nice to actually have enough girls, to actually give a card out on the day, because obviously it's so frustrating within this division that you don't always get the numbers, and you're competing with 2-3 girls, and it's really frustrating because then you're not getting that competition that you want, and obviously it's a shame that you're not able to get the card on the day, and then you have to go through this process of applying to the IFBB. But it is the way it is, unfortunately, and there's just not seem to get the numbers there that we need.
Well, I know a certain site I follow, Female Body Challenge, mentioned that it's not as many numbers when it is comes to Europe, but it's also the same thing here in States with some particular position. Physique is a little bit more. There's a little more depth in physique here in the States, but I think in Europe, because I think there's a more of a idea of femininity, and when you get to the bigger divisions like women's bodybuilding, physique, there's always going to be, is that a sacrifice our femininity for the masculinity, for the muscularity we want? Not masculine, muscularity. That's the big difference. And then being so close, I know a lady who's also from the UK. I interviewed Lisa Smith, if you know of her. She did the Romania Muscle Fest, and she was only one of 2 competitors in women's bodybuilding. But she, just like yourself, she put in her application for a pro card, and she was lucky that some people really spoke up for her. And she's a impressive lady. I mean, she's also like yourself. She's a coach and a trainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Lisa. Yeah, so I know I've seen her compete a few times before, because we did the UK Arnold together a number of years ago, as amateurs back when I was figure, and obviously she was doing women's bodybuilding then. And same thing, like there was her and another lady, I don't know if you know Louise Plum, who is a IFBB pro now as well, women's bodybuilder, and it was those 2 that were competing at the Arnold there. And again, it's just, you're just not getting those numbers. And I mean, at the UK pro qualifier that I did, I think it was about 6 weeks ago, something like that, there was one lady in women's bodybuilding, and she did put her application in. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful in this time, so I think she's competing again, possibly in Romania later on in the year. But she had a great physique, and it's just such a shame that she hasn't got that competition, because you just stood on the stage by yourself, and unfortunately that you don't always get the numbers at the beginning of the year either. That's the one thing I have noticed, is that as the season tends to go along, you do tend to get more numbers later on in the season. And I think that's possibly because over here in the UK anyway, we have a lot of different federations that have their British finals and things like that at the end of the season. So because people are thinking about qualifying for the finals and then doing that, they're thinking, well, I don't want to do a prep and do a show in April and then have to prep again and do another show in October when the finals are, so I'll just do everything later on in the season. So the numbers do tend to be a little higher at that point. But for me, because I'm a coach and I have a lot of clients and things competing, I have to juggle when I'm going to put myself in and then when I'm going to be there for my clients, So there is that thought, well, it's better for me to do the beginning of the year when I've got a little bit less workload on, so that then I can concentrate on my clients later on in the season. So yeah, so like I say, that's why I've done earlier this year, whereas normally I would do later.
Yeah, it's also a good way to, let me just go ahead and see how I do this first half of the year. And then if I do get my pro card, I have enough time where I can, I can take the rest of the year and work on maybe my conditioning and size. So when I'm ready to make a pro debut, I don't have to wait. I know some competitors might take 2 or 3 years off, or maybe longer. I was at Tampa last year. It was a great opportunity for me to go to Tampa. A friend of mine, her name is Eunice. I always talk about Eunice. Eunice runs a company called Bad Rap. She's the one who gave me the book. I always like to show during my interview. This is the new hat she sent me. I ordered the towels and stuff. And, I met a lady, her name is April Cosamato. And Miss Cosamato turned pro back in 2014. She made her pro debut after nearly, I would say, 11 years since she last made her. She got a pro card. And even at that show, I believe she was in the top 10 in women's physique in the open, and she won the 40 plus class. Got to qualify for the match that year, but as you know, it was barely 2 or 3 weeks from the show, so she wouldn't have time to get ready. I just interviewed April a while back. She was top 3 at the show in Atlantic City, the Atlantic City, pro. And she's a very impressive woman. And the other thing is, it does take that time. To develop. And you understand that as a coach when you have clients, especially when they come in and say, what do I need? What do you see that you can work with me to make me a better athlete?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Time is everything. Time and consistency. That everybody wants the result tomorrow, right? We all want to be able to just follow a plan for a couple of weeks and be ready. But reality is, losing body fat is a relatively quick process, but gaining the muscle underneath takes a long time, and it takes that dedication to eating right consistently training hard consistently, putting the effort in, day out, so to get that muscle there, so that when you do diet down, that there's something underneath. Otherwise, people miss it. People often don't realize how much body fat that they've got until they get lean, and then they realize, actually, I thought I had a lot more muscle there than I got. It's just that there was actually a lot more body fat than I realized. So when you diet down, it obviously exposes any weak areas and things that you can see that you need to work on. So I always say, you've got to treat this like the long game, and I'm certainly not going to rush into my pro debut. I want to take a step back, give my body a chance to, for my health markers to get better, first of all, because obviously, there's the time that I need to recover my hormones and things like that after doing a prep. So give myself that time, and then allow myself time to grow, to put the tissue on that I need to, and then put myself in a good position to, to do a pro debut and look competitive. I'm under no illusion about, jumping into a pro show and thinking, oh, I'm going to win it, but I want to be able to stand in that lineup with those girls and feel like I belong in that lineup, and that I don't look out of place in any way. I want to be able to level up, because obviously as soon as you turn pro, you're that tiny little fish in a great big ocean, right? So, it's about giving it the time and putting that tissue on rather than just rushing it, because I'm only going to get one pro debut. So, I want to make sure that when I do it, it's the right time, not just because I just, couldn't wait and I couldn't be patient, because patience is everything in this sport.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like with these younger competitors, they want everything quick, fast, in a hurry. Mm-hmm. But we who are more mature know that it takes time. Yeah. You rush something, you miss a few things. You might, miss this or miss that. You might come up looking like this, but then you know what? There's maybe one little thing you need to tweak. You want to be the overall best representation of yourself. And she mentioned she's now with a new coach, and I know of a coach because I interviewed one of your training mates. That's Laura Morley, as you know. Yeah, Laura is and that's Amanda Whitson, who is the IFBB pro stuff. He just started following my IG. Shout out to her. So how'd y'all two meet, and how did this come about? You were with the previous coach, and you were with her.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Amanda for a few years. With seeing her at shows with her clients and things like that, and obviously as an athlete as well. Followed her for quite a long time, and it just became a natural sort of progression, really. So I was in Milan last year for the Masters qualifier, where Laura was actually competing as well. So we both did that show. And at that time, I was just like sitting on the fence as to whether I change coaches or not, because my previous coach was a very good coach. There was no bad blood or anything between us. It just felt like it was time to sort of make a bit of a change and maybe work with a female. And I'd been eyeing up Amanda for a while, and I'd been considering, working with her, seeing obviously the kind of athletes that she was working with. Because again, there's a lot of coaches out there that are working with bikini girls and fit models and that sort of thing. But for me, obviously, I want to work with a coach that's got that experience of working with these bigger categories. Have you worked with a women's physique competitor? Have you worked with lots of bigger, that kind of thing. So, and I knew Amanda's roster of clients was very much, figure and women's physique clients. So, and then obviously like Laura sort of going towards women's bodybuilding, and the results that she was getting were, fantastic. So we had a chat in Milan, and she very much looked after me, even though I wasn't being coached by her at that particular time. She really did take me under her wing at that show, helped me with some posing just before I went on stage, took some check-in photos for me, gave me a few little bits of tips and things before I went on stage. And I really appreciated that, because, she didn't have to do that at all. She wasn't my coach. My coach couldn't be there at that particular show. So it really made me feel a lot easier, going on stage, knowing that she would have my back, if you like. So as soon as that show was done, I came back to the UK and then sort of messaged her and said, right, I want to have a chat and see about working with you into this 2026 season. So we had a chat, and then it went from there. We jumped on board. So very, very happy with that decision. Best decision I could have made.
Well, that's good, because you know what? I think I've talked to ladies about, if they have a choice between having a coach as a man or a woman, some women, I think traditionally will go with a man, because bodybuilding is considered a man's sport. But with a woman, it's like understanding every factor, especially as men and women. This week is the 44th anniversary of Conan Barbarian, and there's a famous quote from his movie which says, "Conan, what is most important in life?" He says, "To crush your enemies She didn't do it for you in the combination of the women. And that's the thing is, as men, that's our purpose of life. We are to fight the battles, to build the houses, to make the babies. Y'all women, y'all supposed to create the babies and cook our food. But I think with women, they understand all the aspects. I think some coaches do, like they do understand some aspects of women, but it's good when you have a woman who understands that thing from menstruals and postpartum, and also how bodies build and how your body chemistry is different between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
And that comfort, because I think it gives you more assurance. Like you don't have that, well, dear darling, we got you here, but then she tells you everything and and also she was helpful for you. I mean, and also the bonus is that she's an Olympian herself. That background experience. She's been in the game a long time. I was talking with Laura. She thinks she might want to come back and compete one time, but right now I think she's just sitting on the field.
Yeah,
I've seen some of the pictures. She got an amazing body. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see her come back and compete again. It'd be amazing. But yeah, like I say, just having that sort of knowledge of the female hormones and things, because obviously I'm 42 now, so as I'm getting older, if you like, my hormones are obviously changing, and and I as a coach myself, I work with a lot of masters athletes. I work with a lot of older clients, and understanding how their bodies change when they're going more towards menopause and things, and the hormones and that sort of side of things creates chaos, you know what I mean, within the body, and all kinds of things that used to work for you don't necessarily work for you as you get older. So it's like having that kind of knowledge, and being able to put that in place, and actually, rather than making it something that's a process that has to be harder, that you can just do different things, and it doesn't have to be any harder, it just has to be different, and having that mutual understanding of how our bodies work and what's the best way to tackle it, really, really did help me and help me to have that trust in her as well, because obviously you need to trust your coach 100% to be able to follow what they're telling you to do. And if you don't trust them, then chances are you're not going to follow it. But I trusted her pretty much straight out of, off the bat, and just followed everything that she told me to do, and, got the results. Simple as that. So not going anywhere now.
And it's been pretty good. You got yourself a pro card. When a couple of shows you came kind of close, and this show was it was only, I think, two of you ladies in one woman one class and you in another class, and that was again, it goes back to the cost of competing. The expense, because this show was in Spain. That means that you have to go all the way to Spain, because I think you've been there before. And
I've done Milan before, but not Spain. This was the first time in Alicante. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. It was Alicante, the same place they're doing. Also, I think they're having a pro qualifier in a couple of weeks in Alicante again. That promoter, he's having it. Yeah, because it's a pretty big show. Can't wait to see how it comes out. And then you decided to put in your application. So you see, I came, I won my class, I won the overall. Hey. Do we think I'm deserving my pro card? What was that experience when you get that response says, hello, Miss Crowther, you are now IFB Pro?
Unbelievable, unbelievable, because obviously I put the application in, and obviously you hope that that's the result that you're going to get, but in the back of your mind you think, maybe they're going to deny it. I mean, I was judged when I was in FIBO in Germany. I was judged by Tyler. So Tyler was the head judge at that show, and it's him that makes the decisions on these applications. So I think that probably helped to some degree that he'd seen me in the flesh, because obviously, he would have recognized me from the Spain show in comparison to, that FIBO show. So it's kind of like, okay, you've seen me on stage, you've seen me stood next to Misha, who won that show. And therefore, you're not just judging me based on just some photos. You're judging me based on seeing me in the flesh as well. So, like I say, put the application in, waited, and then I was literally about to take my dog for a walk, and noticed that I had a notification on my phone. I had an email, opened it, and literally just the first line of it was congratulations and welcome to the IFBB Pro League. And my heart just skipped a beat. I just think, oh my God, I can't believe it. My partner was upstairs just getting ready for this dog walk. So I ran up the stairs, I'm a pro. And he's just like, oh God. Phoned Amanda. She was in Dubai at the time, away in Dubai. So phoned her, and then she video called me, and obviously we were all ecstatic, couldn't believe it. So yeah, very, very, very like hard for it to sink in. I think I don't think it has 100% sunk in just yet, but in that moment when you get that message, you're just like, oh my god, this is it. It's happened, and it's a shame I didn't get the moment on stage, because obviously everyone wants to hold the card, on show day and get it that moment. But at the same time, you know, turning pro was something that I wanted so badly, that moment, yes, is lovely, but the reality is that that's only a fleeting moment. What I wanted was to get into the pro league so I could then progress as an athlete and work in my way through the pro league. So, and that's the real prize. Not the big card on the day. So yeah, very, very, very excited to start seeing where we can progress now in the pro leagues, but nerve-wracking as well, because obviously it's a big jump.
Yeah, it's tough. You put in that working time, and then you feel like it comes short, and then you're not certain that, okay, if I put in my application, will I get it or not? And then that day you get the news, and you're so excited. You run your man saying, "Hey, love, what's going on? What's going on?" I got. It's like you act like you just got married. I'm married now, but and I know you were so happy, and like, as you know, you have a daughter. What was her expression when you told her, "Hey, baby, I'm not IFBB Pro"? What was that like for your little girl?
Yeah, I mean, I like say, well, she's quite grown up now. She's taller than me, so she's definitely not little. But yeah, I told her, I said, "Guess what? Your mum's an IFBB Pro," and she was just like, "Oh, I'm so pleased." And because obviously she's seen me do this. Like, she's grown up with all of this. I mean, I've been competing, not been searching for the pro card for 10 years, but I've been competing for 10 years. So I started off way back in the day, in my bikini days, and it was just doing shows for fun, little shows, little regional shows. And, at that time, obviously she was around 10 or 11 at that point. So she's grown up watching me do this over the years, and then obviously in the last couple of years when I've been really going for this pro card, which is about 4 or 5 years that I've been going for a pro card, and yeah, she knows how much I wanted it and how hard I've worked for it, and all the traveling and everything that's involved, because I've traveled abroad several times now, for pro qualifiers. So I did a show in Germany a couple of years ago. I did a show in Amsterdam last year. I've done 2 shows in Milan. This year I've done Germany, FIBO, and then also Spain. So, it's a lot of travel. Like you say, the expense of it, it's not cheap to do these shows. Registration fees alone as an amateur, for a pro qualifier are very high, and then you've got your tan and your photos and all the rest of it, and you add it all up, and it costs a lot of money, and it's a lot of money to put into one thing, and she's seen me obviously do all of this traveling and expense and all of that, and then to finally get the result, is yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and being like I said, being a single mother, and I want to wish you a happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you.
And raising a child and trying to to follow a passion, but also being a parent.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I think, not as many. Well, I think there's a lot more women in the sport who have responsibilities. Back in the day when I was following, I think it was maybe a handful of women who were bodybuilders who had kids and competed. But now there's several ladies who are, some of them have quite done some interviews with, and, they raise their kids and they still do this sport. And the bonus also, when the kids are much older, they don't have to take care of them as much, but always, no matter how old we get, we always going to be mom for something, mom or dad, whatever, it's going to be a while since my mom passed. So folks, what we got, Claire, here, we're going to jump into IG for a little bit. If you want to follow her, and interested also, if you're someone interested in working as a coach, as a competitor, or maybe you do both lifestyle and competitive coaching too?
Yeah. Female coaches. So I only work with female competitors or female lifestyle clients. So
yeah. So if you're a lady who's interested and you feel comfortable with her, reach out to her. I know she's on the side woman now. Most coaches now are doing things through video chat, stuff like that. But if you are someone interested in working with her, and also if you're someone interested in sponsoring, athletes do need to cover the cost for the travel, the trips, and everything. And as you know, with the guys, got to wear a pair of bananas and board shorts, but women have to dress very nicely. And she looks lovely today, But again, I'm going to remind you guys, you sick freaks out there. She got a man, she got a kid. Be respectful. No weird shit. Nothing. I know. I saw the video. She has an amazing body, but Come on, guys, calm yourself. Just take a deep breath and use common sense. Don't you have that? But some people don't. So we're going to jump into her social media for a bit here, and we'll say again, she looked really awesome. I mean, she has a lovely body. Here she is backstage here doing a little practice, and again, wow. I mean, this is from a classic from when she was doing. This is figure back in
That was
Arnold.
yeah.
Yeah, and you really evolved over the years. You were from brunette to blonde.
Mhm.
You really have amazing development over the years. Here she is. Who you see that dog? Or he's still around? Yeah, you know. But what's that like for you, day in day out? The training, the regiments, everything that involves with being a bodybuilder.
I mean, it's just life to me now, you know. So I've been doing this for such a long time now that my partner's also a competitive bodybuilder as well. So he's a super heavyweight. So we've lived this lifestyle together. We've been together just over 7 years. So it is just life, like I say. And for me, it doesn't feel unusual, anymore. It's just you do your thing, you go to the gym, you do your training, you eat, you prep your food, you eat meals, and that is just the everyday reality of my life. And I'm very fortunate that being an online coach gives me the ability to manage my own time, manage my own diary, so that I can fit my training in when I need to, that I can travel to shows, that I can do things like this, and that has helped me massively because I used to work within the NHS here in the UK, and I was a midwife, so I used to deliver babies. So I used to work shifts and all sorts of things like that. So that made life a lot harder, and I was competing at that time, but it was a lot more difficult to commit that time, to your meals, your training, and everything else when you're trying to juggle these long shifts and nights and weekends and all that sort of thing. Whereas now, I get to live my passion every day, and I get to live it through my clients as well, which is absolutely amazing, because I've got some fantastic girls that are competing at the moment, and it's lovely to watch those girls, do their shows and be there for them and watch them thrive.
Mm-hmm. And this is one of your clients right here,
Mm-hmm.
and her name is Stephanie. We've been working with her. She competes in the PCA,
Mm-hmm.
and also this is another one of your clients right here.
Yeah,
Her.
Sabina.
She looks really. Also, you got quite a few girls at PCA. I think PCA is really picking up when it comes to competitors now in the last few years.
Yeah.
Here's another lady. She's 50 plus. Wow, I wouldn't think
Yeah.
she's. Wow, I mean, I've seen ladies I've interviewed and they tell me like, "Oh, I'm 50. You're my age. I thought you were younger than me." He's also, as you know, she's giving some instructions if you're interested in listening.
I need to do a little video to say thank you, really, to everybody. First of all, everybody that has congratulated me following the recent news that I actually did win my IFBB Pro Card in Spain. So I petitioned to the IFBB following that show and found out that I have actually got my Pro Card. So I am now officially a Women's Physique IFBB Pro, which is both exciting, daunting, and frightening all at the same time. But this is what I've been going for now for many, many, many years. Obviously, been competing for 10 years and realistically been gunning for this pro card now for about 5 years. The first pro qualifier I ever did was in 2021. So this has been a culmination of lots of years of hard work, blood, sweat, tears, you name it, right? So I need to say thank you to everybody that has congratulated me. I am absolutely overwhelmed by the number of people that have followed this journey. Obviously, to me, it's my everything, but obviously I'm just really surprised how many people have followed along and supported me and, messaged me with congratulations. It doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you so much. But I do need to make some individual thank yous. So first of all, thank you so much to Kane and everyone at Power Zone Gym. I've been training at that gym now for nearly 10 years, and I've had so much support of everyone there. I even met Adam there. Without Power Zone, I wouldn't even be with him, so it's been everything, and it really is the best place to train. Obviously I will do sometimes the odd session at a different gym, but nothing quite feels like home, right? And, everybody has been so supportive throughout the whole journey, right from when I started training there when I was a bikini girl all the way to where I'm at now, so thank you so much. Really is the best place to train ever. and you know, you're not getting rid of me. So I'm staying. So thank you. Secondly, I need to say thank you to Bikini Mama, to Kat, who has provided me with my suits now for the past 4 years, I think it is. Always makes me an incredible suit, regardless, you know, always comes up with something better than I could ever imagine. And yeah, did me an absolutely beautiful suit this year, which I am going to purchase from her, because I've always said if I get my pro card, I'm going to buy the suit that I get my pro card in. So I am having that suit and I'm going to get it framed. And yeah, beautiful suit. Thank you so much for everything. And not only have you supported me in terms of, you know, providing me with amazing suits, but you've supported me in lots of other ways in business and things as well. So thank you. It doesn't go unnoticed. You know, you're an absolute diamond. I wouldn't go anywhere else. Thirdly, Jenna, you are the one that's been there since day one. Well, minus day one, because you have been my PT and the guy that beasts me since 2013. So before my competing days, before the days of the stage, before competing was even a seed in my brain, you were there to help me to get into shape and to improve my physique after I'd lost all the weight that I lost. So thank you so much for being there throughout this whole crazy process, all these years, the ups, the downs, all the personal stuff that we've been through, you know. And yeah, thank you so much. There's a lot more work to come now, because now we've got to level up. So, you know, we've got to get beasting, you know. But yeah, thank you. Thank you again for everything that you've done for me over the last, you know, what is it now? 13 years, something crazy like that. So thank you. I need to say thank you to my coach. Of course, I need to say thank you to my coach. She has been absolutely amazing. Support second to none. I found the magic formula with her. You know, there's no question about it. So, Amanda, you are a legend, and thank you so much for everything that you've done for me this year. You know, you've brought me in my best condition I've ever been in. And finally, we've got that card. So, thank you so much. Now we need to level up. And I can't say thank you to Amanda without saying thank you to my previous coaches, because, you know, the journey is more than just one prep, right? And to get where I am at now and to get to where I was at the beginning of this year is a culmination of lots of different things. And I have to say a massive thank you, Charlie Garforth. You know, I worked with Charlie for many years. He got me in fantastic shape in 2025. And because of the shape that we came into at the end of that season, gave me a great starting point for this year. So thank you, Charlie, because, you know, without that sort of lead up into where I am or where I was at the beginning of this year, I wouldn't have the result that I've got. So thank you so much. And also thank you to Tom Haynes, who I also worked with for a year in my first proper year of doing women's physique. So they're the main thank yous. But like I say, big thank you to all the close friends and family that I've got. You know, Emily, you've supported me throughout all of this. You know, obviously when you turned pro a few years ago, I've always been there chasing it, you know, in the background. So now I can finally join you in the pro league. And obviously I can't end this without saying a big thank you to Adam, because he has been through this with me for the past 7.5 years. You know, we spent pretty much our whole relationship, you know, as a bodybuilding couple. And now I finally got that IFBB pro card and finally got into the pro leagues. Now it's your turn. Now we need to get you in there too, because we need to be IFBB pro couple. So, you know, it's your turn next. But thank you so much for all of your support and letting me be me. So I'm going to wind this off now because I've been blabbing on for ages. But yeah, I'm over the moon, ecstatic, nervous as hell as well about the future. But at the same time, you know, this is what I've wanted. This is what I've worked for so long. So thank you to everybody for all of your support. Peace out.
Well, that is a great testimony. And people got to realize it does take a team to build a bodybuilder. I mean, you know, this is where you were before to you now. I mean, you know, you were a bigger woman, but now you transform your body to a level where you are now officially an IFB pro. It takes time, it takes work, as we talked about earlier. Like, you know, what's Adam's plans now? You know, for him,
he is working towards potentially some shows, possibly at the end of the year, but maybe into next year. So he's not 100% certain at this moment in time, but he has been in an off season growing. So yeah, so that's watch this space. Who knows? But he will be back. But it's just a question of when. Really, it's just making sure that he's got enough tissue to be competitive. Because obviously, being a super heavyweight, you know, you're with those big lads, you know, and the sky's the limit. There's no, you know, weight cap on that, so you've got to be as big as you can possibly be with the condition, obviously, at the same time. So he's always come in very conditioned. He just needs a little bit more size. So we will see.
Yeah, and like I said, at the show, what was the critique from the judges? What did they tell you that they saw that really placed you in your close to getting a pro card?
Basically, like shape, ultimately that I've got a great shape, that my waist isn't blown out, because obviously that's something you have to be mindful of. Obviously, as you get bigger as a female, that you can lose that waistline, So they said, yeah, but I've got great shape, great stage presence, good posing. Just the only sort of things I need to really sort of work on more than anything else is just adding more size all over, really. So, a little bit more back density, things like that, tiny little bit more width, just more of everything, really, more than anything else. But otherwise, quite well put together. And yeah, so, and decent condition this time. So which was the thing we were chasing more than anything.
But from this video, where you have great tie-ins with your glutes,
Mm-hmm.
go overall width, and so again, your waist not below, because that's a big problem with some ladies in physique now, that they want the example for especially for WPD is Natalia Cuejo. She's the example for the division now. She's a champion, and that's the look I think they want to go with. They want the more smaller waist, the more condition, better width, good density. But again, we talked about this, how the divisions are starting to meld a bit.
Mm-hmm.
When you are, and no offense to your friend Sarah, she is amazing young lady. She was so happy for you. She made the comments, said, "Yeah, fucking go." That's a good friendship. But we're seeing women now where they kind of get away from the criteria. I don't know. I think the issue I go back to is the judging, where it's supposed to be a certain criteria. It's supposed to be separate from women's bodybuilding. Women's bodybuilding is supposed to be more full around the muscle bellies, where women's is supposed to be more leaner, athletic look. Even if you look at figure now, when you were doing figure, the women have gotten a lot larger, more defined. As you mentioned the division during our conversation, fit model, excuse me. I understand the purpose of it, but for me, as a fan of muscle, women of muscle, men of muscle, it's how this is what one lady said. It's a basic bitch division. I mean, what's the point of it when after a while, especially as amateurs, one thing, it's a great starter, but then we hit the pros, it's going to evolve to what, if you look at the girls in bikini right now, we're talking about going down to that division. It's going to, because that's one thing that affects the division. We've seen women, we talked about this like one weekend, we see women coming down from either physique or figure or even women's bodybuilding into divisions like wellness and bikini and also physique. It's changing the aesthetics of the division.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I obviously, the reason they've put this in is because bikini has gotten to where it is. If you're looking at the girls who were winning bikini at the Olympia even 5-6 years ago, and then you look at the girls now, it's a huge difference in terms of the amount of muscle those girls are carrying, the level of conditioning. So bikini itself has just moved up, and then everything goes up with it, doesn't it? So like as you make those bikini girls bigger, rather than encouraging them to maybe move into figure, they're keeping them in bikini, but then rewarding them for having more size than they probably should have done in bikini. Then that's making figure girls go bigger. And again, they're not being encouraged to move up, and so on and so on and so on. So everything just starts getting bigger. Because, yes, categories will evolve over time, obviously. But like I say, if your physique is more suited to a better category, then realistically, you should be marked down and then told, right, okay, we're going to mark you down here because you should be in physique, or you should be in women's bodybuilding, or whatever it is, to encourage those girls to move up through those categories. And then it keeps the criteria where it is. Because when you look at the criteria on paper, and then when you see what they award on stage, it's very different, and I know this from a coaching perspective, and I say this to my girls, you'll read the criteria and it'll say, you shouldn't have striations, or you shouldn't have this, or you shouldn't have the other. But then when it actually comes on stage, the girls with the striations and everything are the girls that are winning and the girls that are placing. So it's a case of looking at what they're awarding, and if they're awarding bigger in all the categories all the time, then of course the girls are going to push towards that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over time, because obviously there's been a lot of interest in the fit model divisions, because it's a very attainable physique. You don't need to have been training for years and years and years, and you don't have to diet as aggressively. So a lot of younger girls in particular obviously find it quite appealing, because they can come in, after not doing a lot of, having a lot of gym experience and things, and not having to use PEDs and all that sort of thing, to come into that division. But will it start to move? And that's the worry, isn't it? Is that if it starts to get bigger and it starts to go like bikini did, what happens to everything else? Is that when they're going to start removing women's bodybuilding again? And that's the worry, because we've got so many female categories now. When you think about the men's categories compared to the female categories, we've got obviously fit model now, bikini, wellness, fitness, figure, physique, women's bodybuilding. So we've got 7 female categories. And you think, well, if they're going to pull one, which one are they going to pull? And it's probably going to be one of the bigger categories, which is such a shame, because that's supposed to be the pinnacle of what this whole sport is, bodybuilding, but yeah.
It's politics. I'm a fan. And that's what it is. My fan mind is it. But also, as often as I say, I'm a particular type of criminal. I just love anarchy and chaos. I just love to speak about this stuff because it just kind of touches my mind, and it just drives me. But that's the thing is, I'm just somebody who has a voice, have a small channel. So, this is a question I ask you, ladies, especially after that long prep. You've been on that tough diet. That Amanda, does Amanda do your nutrition too?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. So, and she gives you little refeeds every now and then, But then I know was Adam with you on your trip?
Not to Spain, no. I actually went to Spain completely by myself.
Oh.
Again, financially, so he came to Germany with me and to FIBO when we did that one together. And then when it came to Spain, he couldn't afford to get more time off work, and obviously it's 2 flights and everything else. So I traveled alone for that one. Which I was fine. I'm a very independent kind of person. And to be honest, when you're that deep into prep, sometimes it's easier because you just have to think about yourself. You don't have to worry about anybody else, So I was on my own at that show, but I held off, and I didn't have a celebratory meal until I got back. So, because I flew back, the show was on the Sunday, and I flew back on early hours of the Monday. So it wasn't long before I was home anyway. So, but we celebrated properly, really, only a couple of days ago, because once I got the official pro card, then we went out for a lovely meal on Monday evening. So, which was lovely. So really, really nice meal together. Because again, he follows a bodybuilding diet year round as well. So, we don't really go out for meals very often. So when we do, we like to do it really well. So, make the most of it.
You wanted to kick it up the big time, like hit it up the big time, baby. We're going out here. We're going to get steak and lobster. We're going to get some cake and But then we have to get back to the gym and work because it's not something you do every day. And that's the thing about that is that being consistent, being disciplined, being patient, because this is a sport where you have to have a lot of control, and like most people from the outside, we're always going to associate because you take these steroids and you just get as big and buff as you want. But again, this is what I want people to understand this. It's not all about steroids. If you follow a diet, if you stay consistent to your diet, if you are patient, if you are calm, if you are intelligent about what you eat and how you train, you can do pretty good. You can take all the shit you can take. But if you don't follow those same guidelines, whatever the plan your coach gives you, you're not going to look like people like Clara or like Amanda or like Adam or like any other competitor in bodybuilding world. You're just going to be like somebody told me you can look like a melted popsicle. You can look like shit. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is most important to you. And, and also, again, we go back to the fact that it does take a team to, you mentioned your suit designer. So you're going to take the suit, you're going to put it in a glass case and, and just you put the pro card with it too.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, so that's the plan. So, because Kat, who runs Bikini Mama, that's her company, she is absolutely brilliant at what she does. She has sponsored me for a couple of years now, and she actually sponsors Michelle Mensa, the fitness Olympian.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so she's made her suits and everything for for the Olympia and stuff like that. So it's like she knows what she's doing. She's absolutely brilliant at what she does, and yeah, she made me this suit this time. And normally what I do is, she gives me a suit, I wear it for my shows, and then I send it back, and then she'll use it as a rental suit and things like that with other people. But I've always said, if I won my pro card, that I would make sure that I bought that suit off her and I would keep it. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm definitely going to frame it and everything because it's the one, the one that I got it in. So yeah, I want to keep it.
You feel like, like you feel like the Highlander. You took my head, says, "Hey, I am the one." Like I know everything. I've seen everything. I've done everything, and that's experience. That's I mean, like this. I gotta put this in a case some of these days, but I love it. I do that College George still. I can't let it go because I love Andrea. I would love to meet her some of these days. I actually, when I was in Florida, it was a great opportunity for me to go out there, help my friend Eunice. This is my friend Eunice. She runs a company, Bad Rap, the
Oh wow, yeah,
monitors. Yeah. And that was David Lee Roth. I got to meet David Lee Roth. That is
amazing.
unbelievable. I mean, that's just something. And then I got to meet people like, I ran into Sharonka Hinton, who was number 3 in the world in women's physique. Also Ashley Jones, who is currently now number 2 in the world. And then just it was an experience for me, and even to meet some legends there. I got to meet Kevin O'Brien. I remember he came by the booth and I shook his hand. I remember when from the magazines, he was like the Pretty Ricky of men's bodybuilding back in the day. And I said, Mr. Ravone, you should have been Mr. Olympia twice. And he looked at me and said, yeah, But it's an experience when meeting somebody like Amanda, and and her guiding your way, for yourself. This is a great relationship that you have with her, and it's really has come out, and you have now reached your pinnacle for now as an amateur, but now you still have to reach that pinnacle as a pro.
Absolutely, yeah. So, like I say, they sort of start all over again to some degree. Obviously it's a progression, right? But yeah, we'll just be working together now, for the foreseeable, to make sure that we, put the size on where we need to, work on any weak areas, and prepare me for that pro debut, really. So yeah, so like I say, we've been working together obviously for the last few weeks in the reverse diet, which has been going really, really well so far. So I haven't been eating lots of silly things or anything like that. I've still been very, very mindful of everything and following my plan, because like I say, I don't want to mess this bit up, because this is a time where your body's so sensitive, more likely to, gain body fat very, very quickly and put your body into a position where you're not really going to grow much quality tissue if you're not mindful. So this off season, I am treating, even more with even more respect than I have in the past, because I know that this time that I've got now, immediately post show, can be a very, very useful time, or it can be a really terrible time in terms of your physique. So just trying to, now I am pro, you've got to act like one, and that's the thing. So it's about not leaving any box unticked, really, and that, regardless of whether you're on prep or off season, it's still about being consistent, still doing the do, every single day. And also, from like my client's perspective, if they see me living the lifestyle, doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that shows them that I'm not just sitting here and telling them, oh yeah, eat this, eat this, eat this, and I'm just sitting in the background doing what I want. I want to be a good inspiration to those girls, and so that they can see me doing the do, living it, breathing it, every single day, rather than just being there, like I say, sitting on a throne, telling them what to do while I do what I like, So it's important for me to, to lead from the front, really, for them.
Like my mom used to say, do what I say, not do what I do. You
Mm.
know, be aware of what you do when you get to the sport. We get involved with it, understanding everything, all the aspects, and also just be patient, because again, it goes back that it does take time.
Yeah.
And I would say that to any young person: be patient. Nothing. You don't want to grow up so fast and you miss a few things. There's one person who I follow, Paula Ranta, who's
Oh yeah,
she's 26 years old.
I know.
I got to meet her when I was in Tampa. She's to my mindset. I'm going to be 52 in November. She's a baby to my mindset, because she's still young. She's still, as my man Jerome would say, she's still wet behind the ears and breast milk like Similac. And Sarah, she's a young lady.
Yeah,
She's
sure.
coming up. I mean, that's one thing I think. It's these new upcoming athletes that keep the sport going, who and also the veterans, like people like as mentioned, Andrea's, who's top of the game. People like Sarah. There's that debate between Sarah Vilgas and Natalia Cuejo. In your opinion, who is really the standard of your division? Do you feel like that is? You think Natalia's going to retain the title, or does she feel like Sarah's going to come back and take it back like she did before?
I think it's going to be an interesting one, because they've both got different physiques. They very much both are women's physique, but in different ways. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, like I mean, Natalia's just got that absolutely beautiful shape, right? You know, that tiny waist, really, really beautiful lats. But then Sarah's got that level of conditioning, you know, in the glutes and everything, and again, her insertions and everything. It's a really interesting one because, like I say, I think it could go either way. I think it really just depends on, you know, on the day, you know, who's going to pull it just that little bit more in one direction. But I mean, from my opinion, from last year, I would say I prefer the look of Natalia just from last year. But at the same time, you know, it wouldn't take much to sway me back to Sarah because the year before I actually preferred Sarah's physique. So it's so close. It's close, but it's not. Their physiques aren't the same, but in terms of like which way you can say like, right, you got these points going this way and these points going that way, and it's, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see. But again, like even seeing some of the girls that are coming up to the Olympia this year, like Paula, for example, like, I mean, Paula's got amazing conditioning, huge legs, you know, I mean, just needs to bring her upper body a little bit more, really, to sort of give her more symmetry top to bottom. But, you know, I mean, she looks absolutely insane, you know, conditioning in the leg and the size that she's built in the legs in the last couple of years. Crazy.
Yeah, this is where I met her at Tampa. I mean, this was last year. I mean, she I think she did Texas that was a month later. I think she did Texas and another show. I mean, and like saying, she's 26 years old. She can run all day, run all night. I mean, I got two bad knees like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I some days I get up like you know. But that's the thing is, I think if they go by what the criteria is supposed to be, it might be Natalia. But if they feel like they like the conditioning and shape that Sarah bringing, somebody I wouldn't mind seeing maybe taking them both out is Zama Benta. Zama, I was at Tampa when she competed. She's amazing. I mean, you know, I mean, she looks great. I think Brooke Walker's coming back, and I always liked her because she had a great look to her, very feminine, very next door. I think she'll be the great standard, you know. And she, from people I've interviewed and who've been her clients and also who competed, she's a good person. You know, I think it's all up to what the judges want to see and what they want. So we're not going to hold Claire too much time here. She is a busy lady. She got clients. She got this. It's great to have her back on here and to say congratulations. I mean, again, man, you've been doing this for quite a long time. And I know it's not the same experience as like if you're on stage and they give you that pro card, you can cry like a baby and back, and you feel like from Rocky when he says in Rocky 2 says, I did it, you know. You know, it's that experience when you get that chance to be on that stage, to work hard, and then to get the reward out of it. You know, I mean, what if it's anything you could change? What would it be? You know, in your process of bodybuilding.
That's an interesting one. Is there anything I would change? I don't think I would, you know, because I think even though I've had lots of like close shaves with pro card, you know, and there's been many times when it's been frustrating and I've felt like, oh, it's just like one, you know, another time where there's somebody who's beat me. I think without that experience of going through all of that, I wouldn't be the athlete that I am today. And I think having those like knockbacks and not having this like, you know, like some people obviously compete in a couple of regionals, they do a couple of pro qualifiers and boom, they get it. You know, they've done 4 shows and they're pro. For me, I've done 32 shows, you know, in my competitive career. I've done 11 pro qualifiers. So it hasn't been that very quick, you know, bish bash bosh, now you're a pro. But I think it's built me up better as an athlete because I can accept defeat, you know, and I know what it's like. I can take constructive criticism and then work on it rather than being somebody who's just won everything and then all of a sudden gets to the pro leagues and goes, oh, now I'm not winning anymore. And I don't know what this feeling feels like. So I understand how the process works in terms of, you know, having to be at the bottom and not getting those placings and not getting the wins and being knocked back, but actually taking it, you know, on board and saying, right, I'm going to use this as fuel now. I'm not going to sit at home and cry about it. I'm just going to use it as fuel to work harder, to be better, come back, and one day it will be my turn, you know, and that's exactly what's happened. And I think that's an important part of being an athlete, you know, being able to accept the defeats, being able to accept the times that you don't win, because realistically, you know, most of us are going to have more defeats than we do have wins. So if you can't take that, then you're going to struggle, you know, especially when you're going into things like the pro league. So yeah, I don't think I would change anything because, like I say, I wouldn't be here today having this conversation with you if it hadn't been for everything that's happened in the past. So
Well, man, as I'm always a poor old country boy, I appreciate this opportunity to talk to, I would say, a very pretty woman like yourself.
Thank you so
And
much.
and I think I when I reached out to you the first time, I said, "Wow, she has potential." And that's the thing is, I'm the type of person I reach out to people that really have something about them. I would again, I would love to have her on as a guest, Andrea. I love her. I just I know this is my friend David. I met him in Tampa. We do content. He had his hand on my girl. I love him. He did it twice. He was at the auto class. She was at the booth. He had. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got. My brother, I love him. He threw me around Tampa. I appreciate him, but I keep telling him, don't touch my girl. But okay. But yeah, and I think people learn be a little humble. Take this.
Mm,
This is not a sport where you can really make a living off of. It's a hobby. If it was a sport you make a living off of, great. But see what it is. See it as something that you're doing something that most people don't have the same discipline, the mindset, or the consistency to do. I mean, it's tough. Especially, I can tell you, losing weight is tough. I mean, right now. Last time we talked, I was like touching around 500 pounds. Now I'm at 416. I mean, I lost a good amount of weight.
well
I've been taking
done.
care of myself. It had been perfect because sometimes it's like especially holidays and food and and I'm a single guy, so I'm by myself most of the time. But you know what? If you take this moment and say, you know what, I'm gonna do something for me, and I'm going to stick with a plan, keep working with it. I know you talk this over with your clients when you talk about things, how you're gonna do, how you work, and everything that needs to be done in this process.
Mhm.
And this is a process. And understand fully what's involved in it, the consistency, the work, the training, the diet. Posing is very important, and also the presentation because it says women you have to be very walk a fine line of femininity and muscularity,
Yeah.
and that's tough to be in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And as you say, like as you work your way up the categories, you know, it is important to still maintain that femininity, and something we still do get marked on. You've got to be very mindful of that. And again, it comes down to some of the choices that you may make when it comes to like PEDs and things like that, which, I mean, we could talk all day about all that sort of side of things. But, you have to be very mindful about the choices that you make because of the impact that that can have on your femininity. And like say, when people are trying to rush things, they're like, oh, I'll just take everything, and then potentially ruin that side of things. You can't go back from that. So, taking a slower, more progressive route with it is more likely to give you better gains in the long run anyway, because you're not trying to rush it so fast, but also protect that femininity so that when you do step on stage, that you've still got that grace, you've still got that elegance, if you like, that you need within, physique and things. But at the same time, you can still look strong, muscular, powerful at the same time. And like I say, it's just getting that balance of the two together.
It's a tightrope we have to walk, especially as a woman in sport. Men are given the privilege. Guys get as freaking big as they want, and also, bodybuilding is becoming worldwide. Like there's quite a few bodybuilders from your end of the world, the UK, having yourself and Lisa and Michelle and Sarah and Romana Scottson, who have
Yeah,
been a guest on here. I mean, it's really growing. It's a worldwide sport, but still kind of confined in a small area.
sure.
And the people who go to these shows, who support y'all, and understand that the time and work you put in, we see these amazing bodies. I keep pointing out, we see these amazing bodies in great shape, but understand the tired, the hungry, the dehydration, the sometimes the long nights and the recovery that's involved in bringing petition. We only on for the stage for maybe 2 minutes at the most. But
Mm.
still, this is a passion sport, and you got your daughter and your partner, and he said, "Yeah, that's my love. I love her. Yeah, I support her." And this guy says, "Yeah, who's that chick with the pink hair? Yeah, she's got a you stop that, you thick freak." But you know what? This is the thing about this. This is something that you love doing, and you love what you have gained from it, being a coach, being a trainer, the friendships, and relationships you gain out of this. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I think is more important when you get to sport. To maintain a certain piece of yourself, also becoming a new person too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like I say, I'm so passionate about what I do in every way, both as an athlete and as a coach and everything else. And it's brought me so much into my life. Yes, as an athlete by itself, I'm not necessarily earning a crust out of that, but off the back of bodybuilding, I certainly am, because as a coach, I work full time as a coach. That's my full time thing. It's put a roof over my head. I wouldn't have bought this house without that business. You know, giving me my car, giving me the money to be able to go and compete in these shows, you know. So, and then I met my partner in the gym. So everything that I've got, you know, in my life really has come from this, you know, and a lot of my close friends and people that support me and, you know, other people that I support are obviously from this world as well, you know, and it does create new friendships. Sometimes you lose some friendships along the way. Don't get me wrong. You know, I've lost friendships that I guess really in hindsight, were they true friendships? Probably not, because they would have lasted if they were. But I have lost people over the years that have just not really understood what I'm doing, why I do it, you know, and all of that sort of thing. But what I've gained has been far better, you know, and the people that have come into my circle and into my life since I've been doing this have been, you know, true friends and true dedicated people. And you know, you are what you surround yourself with, you know. So if you surround yourself with like-minded people and hardworking people and dedicated people, chances are you're going to find it a lot easier to stay, you know, true to your own goals yourself. Whereas if you surround yourself with people who are not on the same path as you, you can easily get dragged down that way, you know. So yeah, so I always try and surround myself with, you know, like-minded people as much as possible and keep the circle nice and tight, you know. So protect your energy.
It's like it takes metal to sharpen metal.
Yeah.
So now, before we let this go, what is that? What's the plan for the pro day? Do you feel like you are going to, you know, we have a show you picked out yet, or you still going to wait, or you feel like you're going to just say, you know what, let me take my time?
Yeah, we're going to take time. So, I mean, realistically, we want to grow some tissue. But, I mean, me and Amanda did have a bit of a chat the other day about things. And I think the plan would be, because of me being a Masters athlete as well, we will pick a show that's got a Masters and an Open, you know, within the same weekend, if you like, so that we can potentially do both. So that's probably going to be the plan. So it'll be picking something like that. It'll probably be in the US or Canada. So because there's not that many pro shows in Europe with women's physique, especially ones that include Masters. There are a couple, but not many. And I've always wanted to compete in the US anyway. So so that's potentially the plan, is to come over and do that. Maybe 18 months, 2 years. Really depends on you know, how quickly I can start to see that progress, you know. But I'm not putting any pressure on myself to say we're going to do this show on this day, you know. It's just going to go with it and see where we are, you know, as we progress.
And also, if you don't get qualification of Olympia in Open, you can always get it in Masters, because, you know, next year is going to be the Masters coming up.
Yeah.
And they don't know when they're going to have it yet. I hope they have it in the US, because I know somebody didn't like it too much in Japan. You know, that promoter didn't pay the people, you know, but it's a mess. So, ma'am, we're not going to hold you long. I know you're a busy day. So, you have anybody you want to shout out before we let you go?
Just like say thank you to everybody that supported me, you know, and it really has been overwhelming, the amount of support that I've had, you know, and the amount of congratulations and thank yous and stuff that well done and sorry that I've had has been, like I say, overwhelming. But, you know, like I say, my coach obviously has made the dream come true, you know. So I've got to say big thank you to her, and like I say, and a big thank you to my partner Adam, because like I say, he supported me through all of this, lets me be me, you know, doesn't try and hold me back or anything like that. If anything, is the one that's pushing me forward all the time. So yeah, without them two, I wouldn't be where I am now. So they're the big thank yous, really, the big shout outs.
Don't forget your baby, because, you know, you know, no matter how old we get, we're always our mother's baby.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, like I say, my daughter's very much, you know, grown up now, but you know, she turns 21 next week, so we're celebrating. So we're celebrating her birthday. We're going to both myself and my daughter are very much into our music and things, so we are going to a music festival to celebrate her birthday. So we should have a wonderful time, because like I say, I'm not on prep or anything, so just be a chance to down tools a little bit, give back, you know, have some family time, make some memories.
Well, that's great. Remember, hey, even though she's 21, she's not grown yet. She's still a child. Remember, beat him down every now and then. That's what my mom has to do with us. She had to raise a bunch of kids. So, folks, congratulations to Claire on her IFB Pro status. We hope to see her sometime soon, maybe next year, a couple of years, whenever time she's ready. Stop with the big dogs. If you're interested in maybe working with her, if you're a lady who is maybe a competitor looking for a coach, and she's a pretty good coach, the ladies I've seen. If you are interested in just doing lifestyle changes, I know, you know, it's hard to, you know, try to break out of habits. It's hard. Sometimes you got to learn to get out of your own way. her link description of this live stream. You want to check her out. You want to support her, reach out with your interest. But guys, she has a man. She got a kid. No weird shit. Hey guys, I said this. You get more with sugar than you do with vinegar. And I know what you're doing. With the, come on, guys, because I'm one of you. I'm a muscle person. And before I let you go, Claire, he has to say something. He says, and I want to tell you this, Claire, congratulations, and you are beautiful. I'm sorry about him. I'm trying to get him control. So, congratulations, man, and best of luck to your future.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on here again.
You are welcome. Thank you. So, anyway, folks, it's Mail Away George Page. Enjoy the rest of your week. We're going into a new month. Summer's coming around. Summertime. Have a good time. Enjoy these upcoming shows and support people like Claire and these women sport bodybuilding. It's Mail Away George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk. Don't like, subscribe. Good night. Good luck. God bless. And see you next time. And